Capture the passion.
Welcome back to CPTP Season 2, Episode 4. Today we have an awesome experience to talk about what CPTP does in the community. We brought in one of our mentors and her mentee, and we're going to give you an opportunity to see what we do in CPTP and how we build relationships with our mentees to get them ready for the workforce. Today we have Miss Thresa Offord, a coaching manager for Children's Institute, and her mentee, Guadalupe Arechiga, who's also a student at Rio Hondo College. So let's start with the mentor. Thresa, tell us about your background, tell us what you do, and then tell us how you have the wonderful opportunity to be a mentor.
Okay, let's see. So again, my name is Thresa Offord. I am a coaching manager for Children's Institute. Let's see my history. Wow, I've been in the field of early childhood education for about 26 plus years. I started as a lab toddler teacher. Then I moved into site supervising for different companies. And then I became an area manager. So I've done almost everything. And now what I'm most passionate about that I love is the coaching management. Because this position allows me I coach about 13 education specialists, which means they directly go and coach and mentor teachers that work in the Head Start field. Okay. So we have 0 to 5 programs. And that's what my team does. And then I help them tighten their skills in terms of coaching and mentoring teachers.
So you're a mentor of the mentors.
Yes, in a sense. Yes,
Awesome,
absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
And tell me, before we get to your mentee, how did you find out about CPTP?
So, oh goodness. So I was very fortunate. I had, I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Stewart, who actually I think is a adjunct professor here.
Yes, she was also our guest on
yes, I saw
on
that
our first episode. So make sure you guys check it out. It was a really good conversation.
Yes, so she sent me a message and said, hey, this program is happening at Rio Hondo. I know you're interested in becoming an adjunct professor at some point. This could really bridge those connections. And I was like, absolutely, 100% I'm on board. So that's how I found out. I filled out the application. And all this time I'm thinking I'm going to get like, oh, you got to be interviewed. Mm-hmm. But when the next thing after filling out the application, I got an email that says your orientation is this day. I was like, yes. I made it in. Yes. So that's how I found out the program and have loved it from day one.
Right. So you're able to build that network. And Guadalupe,
yes.
So you have an amazing mentor that has an abundant amount of experience, knowledge. What has it been like to you? But before we get there, tell us about yourself.
My name is Guadalupe Arechiga. I'm a first-time college student here at Rio. And it's my first time being a part of the CPTP program as well. It's been so overwhelming in a good way to be a part of the CPTP program. I knew I wanted to be in the teaching career, but learning from her, like, it gives me a whole other view, more insight into the teaching career, into how everything works, and there's so much to learn from her. She has so much knowledge.
She sure does. Yes. Did you always want to be in teaching, or was it just something that came at you as you were going in your career? Or what?
I'm a mom of 4. So, like I told Thresa, I've always volunteered into my kids' classrooms since preschool. So that kind of grew on me. Like, I knew I wanted to be a part of being in a classroom with kids. Like, I enjoy being around kids. And I knew my kids are going to, grow up, and I'm no longer going to be able to go into classrooms. So being involved with other kids and helping them is something that I am passionate about.
Right, yeah. It's always so interesting being a parent and then being in the classroom. Mm-hmm. You know, as I'm sure you've seen it in your experience and now in your profession, that sometimes we sort of feel that these are our own children too. Yeah. You know, being in the classroom, when you have devoted teachers that are very passionate about what they do, it's like, these are my kids too. So you have this even a bigger sense of responsibility to them to provide what they need. So now that you're mentoring Guadalupe, what has been the most gratifying thing for you?
Well, wow, it's so much. I think the most gratifying thing to me has been just watching Guadalupe's eagerness and her drive to want to learn and her questions, I just find it like she gives me this feeling like this is not just something that is passing for her. Like she's in it. She wants the knowledge. She wants to dive deeper into it. So, and I appreciate her eagerness. We laugh sometimes because Guadalupe has a system. Like in this program, they have to do 30 hours, and every week since day one when we first started together, she literally was like, "Yep, that's on my calendar." I was like, "Oh, what's your plans for this week?" "Oh, I'm going to this, this, and this." And not only would she say she was going, she's followed through on everything she said she was going to do. And I've just been blessed to have this mentee because I think there's been this partnership where I'm also like, wow, she's on it. Let me make sure in my work week that I'm like, okay, let me get this in order. And so I've kind of learned from her too to be consistent and make sure you have plans. So it's been a great partnership. So I hope I stayed on task with the question. But that has been my biggest takeaway from being able to learn. But I love that she has this drive and she's not giving up. And if something comes across her plate, she's like, well, have you heard about this? And we'll talk about it, but she'll continue to do research on it.
Right.
So that has been my kind of takeaway from this experience.
Right, and at CPTP, we want to highlight that we provide students with resources, with workshops, with the opportunities to not just work with the mentor, but also be involved with the program as a whole. To one of the workshops that was hosted, I believe it was last week, we had an individual from JPL as an astronaut, right? And he had this great perspective into teaching. So it's not just working with the mentor, providing a conversation or experiences, but it's also giving you resources to prepare you as you go into the workforce. So now that you've been a mentee, what highlights from the program you really enjoy?
I did join a lot of workshops, and there was always new information. Even though some of them were kind of repetitive, but there was always something that stuck with me in research for like what to do next. Like your career doesn't just stop in early childhood, that there's so much more that you can do. So I like that there's a lot of resources that many outlets that take you onto different directions and doing different things and how to help early childhood kids or how to help kids with special needs. Like there's so much.
Right, yes. I think back to when I was going to school, and I'm not sure if you can relate, but I felt lost many times as a student. I want to do this, but I don't know who to ask. I want to do that, but I don't know where to go to. What CPTP has done for me as a mentor is it's given me that opportunity to provide avenues for mentees to help them see, you know what, if you want to take this path, let me give you my experience and what worked and what didn't work. What types of resources do you provide for Guadalupe as a mentor?
I think my personal experience has been my biggest resource for her. I think because I'll tell her about my journey. I tell her that I did my BA program, where I did my BA program. And I told her, I intentionally told her about my master's program because I'm older. And I recently, in 2001, just finished my master's. And I share that with her with the intention of letting her know it's never too late.
Right.
Like you can keep going and going. So that's one of the resources I wanted to share with her because just my experience speaks to that. Like it's not, you can. I don't mind my age, but I graduated at 53 in 2021 with my master's degree, and I'm super excited about that. So that was very intentional resource I wanted to share with her. Other resources, I share types of ECE programs. So for example, next semester we're excited because we're going to get out there and do some field work because I want to build the connection, want us to go to a Reggio Inspire program. Cerritos also has a CPT program, so we want to make connections there and go observe.
That's an awesome, I've been there, you're going to love it.
Yes, I love their program. So I want to show her what is Reggio. I want to show her what is a Head Start classroom. And I still have connections because part of my work experience has been working for profit, but for profit corporate. So places that have programs like at Fox Studio, LA Airport. So I had that connection too. So I want her to see the corporate world because I want to make sure those resources are provided that we can go and observe. So then you get this perspective of like,
Right,
okay,
right.
that's what that program looks like. I'm really passionate about that one more than that one. Because if they don't get to go in the field and see this and feel it and breathe it, then you don't want to pigeonhole yourself in
Yeah.
tunnel vision like, oh, I'm only going to go to Head Start,
Right,
or I'm
right.
only going to do Reggio. So that's our goal for this coming semester in the spring is like, let's get out there.
Yeah.
Let's observe some programs. I'm going to, take some time off and
Yes.
figure out how to be there with her so we can ask the hard questions. Like, what were your takeaways?
Right.
What did you like about it? And I want to give further resources in the spring in terms of maybe interviewing one of our teachers to get a more deeper connection. That's one of the resources I want to provide. And I want to spend some time. She's like, oh my God, I'm excited. And I want to spend some time in the spring, like different levels of this.
Yeah.
Like I started as a teacher. I was a site supervisor. Then I went into regional manager. Now I'm a coaching man. So letting her really also maybe interview different people from those different perspectives.
Right.
Because there's a world of ECE, and I think when I was coming up in it, I only remember people saying you can be a teacher.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't know that there was all these other avenues. There's advocacy. There's so many different components
so
of
much
ECE that once you find where you fit, it's still a part of changing a life of a child and that family and the community.
Right.
Yeah.
That empowerment.
Yes.
I envy you. I really do. I mean, just hearing you say this, I wish I had that type of resource. I think that I really enjoy being part of CPTP because it gives me that opportunity, like you're saying, to give back, to share. Many times through conversations that I've had with other teachers, they believe that I'm a teacher and that's it. It's the classroom and that's it, without really, like you said, realizing that there's different levels that you can go
Yeah.
into. There's different avenues that you can take. You're always going to be a teacher at heart. That's great. But if you go into, let's say, administration, you're going to be teaching staff, right? And you're still going to be impacting the classrooms. You're still going to be impacting families and communities, just at a different level. So now you have a broader perspective into what you're going to do. If I may ask you, what do you see yourself doing long term?
First, let me tell you that her story of getting her master's not that long ago was very inspiring. I didn't come to college straight out of high school. I am older, and I do have a family now. So I did feel like I was running out of time.
Okay.
To like be a teacher or to go into like a career, a 4-year career. So when she, gave me that view, like, no, like it's never too late, like you can still do it. That was very inspiring for me,
Right.
Which has helped me, keep at it. And also, like you said, like I always thought like preschool teacher is just a preschool teacher, like, or Head Start teacher. That's all there is to it. But no, like there's so much more, so many other programs.
Yes.
So many other outlets to go to that I was not aware of. I thought it was just like teaching. But back to your question, in 10 years, you said?
Long term.
Long term.
Let's not put a time frame because I like you said, I think sometimes in society we put ourselves to certain expectations and then when we don't meet them for whatever reason, because sometimes life does happen, we feel that it's too late or I can't do it anymore. When in reality, it's our life. What do you want to do with teaching? Is it a classroom where you see yourself being, or do you want to
start in a classroom, and I do want to do the classroom for a long time.
Okay.
No time. I'm not putting a number on it, but I do want to be in the classroom with kids. But I eventually, yes, I do want to like be a leader,
Right.
not just for little minds, but for older people as well.
I relate to that, and it resonates a lot with me because, like I said, when I started my career in the early childhood education, I honestly thought it was it's in the classroom and then that's it, not realizing that there's other avenues. I had an opportunity to get mentors along my career path that to this day I still call them my mentors because they helped me see a broader perspective. Had I not had that, I probably would have still been like, well, I only need to be in the classroom and that's it. Tell me about your experience and what was it for you that didn't keep you in the classroom but rather continue to grow? Because I think that's important for everybody to know that having a mentor is not just having someone that's going to be there telling you, oh, do this, turn in your applications, FAFSA, transcript. It's more than that. I want to even call you a life coach or a career coach. Because your experience, and I tell you, your experience is not just benefiting her, but it's going to benefit everyone else that hears the story, because we all can relate to it. So tell us, what was it that made you say, you know what, I'm a good teacher, because I'm sure you are, but I want to do more?
Wow. I never stayed a teacher a long time, interesting enough, because I started in lab school.
What's a lab school?
So a lab school, for example, so I went to San Jose State, and at each university, generally, that has a specialty in early childhood education, and almost every school, because it provides childcare for students. But at our particular, we had a department for child development. So in that department, you had to do some lab hours as one of your classes.
Okay.
So a lab school is where you can go in this program and you can observe and you can interact, because you have to get the hours for that particular class. So after I did those hours, I went across the street to this church that was across the street from the dorms. I was like, I need a little job. So I was like, what can I do? And I was like, wait, I did the lab. Let me go across the street. I got hired as a toddler teacher.
Okay.
So that was an experience. So I got hired not knowing exactly, like, okay, this is my first time doing this. The toddlers are so adorable, but what I learned is it's past adorable. Like, it's not enough for kids to be adorable. Like, you're there to be a role model and a facilitator and implement curriculum, and all that was overwhelming, because I'm thinking I'm just there to watch kids. Because my whole life, I'll tell you this, little sidebar, as a child growing up and in our neighborhood, like, it was, at that time, it was a great time. We had groups, bike riding clubs, and it was fine to ride across the neighborhood. It was different. But when it was time to have an activity, I would tell my group, like, we're playing school. They were like, oh my God, we gotta play school. They'd be so mad at me. I was like, and I'm the teacher. You're always a teacher. I'm supposed to always be the teacher. Like, that's how far back I remember wanting to be connected to kids. And just that experience alone, I think, just as I got in the classroom, I was like, whoa, this is different. I really have to be accountable for other things, not just babysitting kids. Because unfortunately in the ECE world, we get this title of babysitters, and we're far more than that. We're not even that. We're educators. We're building the foundation for these kids. Like, I always tell people, I always put it this way when I do a training. I tell people, if you were in a room of doctors and lawyers, and you were at a banquet, and they go around small talk, well, what do you do? And you're kind of like, not embarrassed, but you're like, wow, these are doctors and lawyers. I'm just a teacher. And I tell teachers, you're never just anything. You're never just anything. So when you go back in that room next time, and you have this opportunity to be at a Christmas party with lawyers and doctors and engineers, and you're the ECS specialist in the room, and they ask you what you do, you tell them, I build brains.
Yes.
I was like, you
I love
them
that.
I build brains.
Remember that, Guadalupe.
Yeah, I build
Please
brains.
remember
That's
that.
what you do. And even in interviews, when you start going on your interviews, and they ask you, why do you love working with the kids? The answer that I get that is a pet peeve for me is, I love kids. Yeah, we all love them. But if you have an answer like, I want to work with kids because I'm building brains,
right?
I'm like, sign the dotted line, because that's such a powerful answer, and it means to me that you're really connected. So I say that to say I started as a toddler teacher, and I was overwhelmed. I was like, I gotta do all this, what? And eventually I got used to it, and that moved on. I maybe taught for a year in toddlers. And then I was still in school, so I was part of different programs, so I didn't necessarily, the whole workers program you have to do. So I did that for a little bit, and then when I got out of school, I moved back to LA, and I applied at a place, and I was their site supervisor. Granted, I hadn't been a teacher a long time, but now I've moved to school age.
Okay.
So I moved to school age, and and I was a site director, so I had like 5 people under me picking up kids from classrooms, and we had a good system. Until I had some kids like that were just off the hook, just busyness. I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Behaviors. And I remember being that awful person compared to these days. I was the person like, just sit in my office. We'll talk about it later. And the kid is just like sitting there. I feel so bad now because I'm like, I had kids just sitting there. Like, what have you thought about? What will you do differently? And And I was like, I was horrible. I was horrible. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
spent some time beating myself up about that for years, and I got past it. And after I did that, I was like, I really want to be a part of helping the adult change how they work with children.
Mm.
And that's what changed it for me. Then I went to another agency and I was there for almost 7 years. And there I was an education coordinator. So it's just been, I think I've been blessed to have these positions since the education coordinator, but to work with adults.
Mm-hmm.
So in that position, I would go in the classrooms. I supervised them and I was their coach in a sense at that program. And I loved every minute of it because I got to work with teachers.
Yes.
And when I was observing, and I was a past high school trainer in that company, they trained me to be a high school trainer. So when I would go in and observe and see what they were doing, I'm like, oh yeah, they're on target. So I would do observations. And if they weren't on target, that's what brought me that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say to them, okay, so we missed the mark a little bit. What would you do differently? And hearing their authentic answers was like, yep, I want to work with adults.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved into a regional director, and it just built that up. I like to celebrate strength-based. Like, that's really important. When you go in a classroom and you do an observation, I tell the coaches this all the time. Let's celebrate strength first.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's a hard classroom, find one thing
Right.
that you can celebrate with them, because then they're going to trust you even more. So when you got to have the harder conversation. So I like the harder conversations. So I do a lot of the practice-based coaching questions. And because I was an education specialist before I became the coaching manager, and I just thrive off of how do we make things better?
Right.
And that's what transitioned me from the teacher to being in the field to now it's the how do we build the quality different in our programs? And you build the quality different by the
Like
people.
I like that.
How you build relationships with the people. I tell the coaches that I supervise, I tell them, and when the program year starts, usually in Head Start, it's a July program year, right? Starts in July. And I tell them the first 2 months of school, the only thing I want you to do is go out there and build relationships.
Build relationships, yes.
If you don't have the relationship, they're not going to trust you when it's time to coach them. So that has been my journey from a teacher to an education coordinator and now to a coaching manager. I love the thought of helping, maybe it's the underdogs, but helping the teachers that struggle, the teachers that struggle.
Right.
And you have to ask them the tough questions and say, like sometimes when I was an education specialist, I would say, so, and what did you notice? I stopped telling them. That was a learning thing for me. I stopped telling people what I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And as a coaching manager and education specialist, now I tell them, when kids were dancing and singing, when you put on that song, what did you notice about children?
Mm-hmm.
And the first response I used to get was, what did I notice? They're waiting for negative
Right.
answers. I'm like, yeah, what did you notice? Well, you're hesitant, put your shoulders down. What did you notice? The kids were laughing. Yeah, keep going. They were laughing. They were singing. I was being silly. Yes, you did it.
Right.
You did it. You made
So
kids feel a part
you're
of.
building them. You're helping them
Yes.
see. So you're helping them celebrate
Yes.
those accomplishments that most of the time we oversee because
Yes.
we're waiting. You're a supervisor. You're in here. I probably did something wrong. That's why you're in here
Exactly.
to reprimand me.
That's what people always think.
Right. And what I hear you say, and as I'm envisioning your career path,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like being a mentor was just in you.
Yes.
from, from the very beginning. And being a teacher, I'm going to tell you that you're mentoring children.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just educating them. And a lot of times, unfortunately, like you said, teachers don't get that credit. And then we sort of carry that burden within us. Well, I'm just a teacher. But those lawyers, those doctors, and everyone else, guess what? They needed a teacher to teach them those skills to be whatever it is that they need. And I think society really needs to change that perspective and that narrative into saying, teachers are just as important as everyone else.
Absolutely.
I love your career path. I really do. And again, I envy you to have an amazing mentor to give you all this spectrum of potential opportunities for you. As you hear her story, is there any path that you want to take?
I do want to, like she said, supervise.
Mm-hmm.
adults in what they're doing and help them, like she's doing, come out of their shell and point out their strengths and the positive that they see in children. Because yes, a lot of the times when we feel like someone's watching us, we feel like we're doing wrong.
Doing something wrong,
they're just looking for the wrong. But I like her approach, and I like how she brings out their strengths, and I feel like it gives them confidence, like, and it also impacts how they treat the kids and how they approach the kids, which I think is important.
So let's put her on the hot seat and let's give you that opportunity to brag about your amazing mentor. How has she done that for you? Like, how does she build you up? How does she help you see the best in you and give you, obviously, those great opportunities and different routes to take in your career? How does she make you feel?
Oh, she makes me feel like I'm always in control of all the things that, I have to do. I do like to stay organized, and she always points out, like, oh, you're like always on top of it. You're always at these, like, I would tell her, oh, were you able to join the workshop? I was like, because I didn't see you on there. She's like, no, like I had to.
Because we started on some together, and then I haven't been able to go to some. Like, no, I wasn't there.
So I like that she brings that up a lot, and that she tells me, like, I like how you're so organized and you're on top of things, and you're gonna do great things, and you're gonna be good at at being in the classroom, and I like that. I like that.
The reassurance, right?
The assurance,
the encouragement,
the encouragement,
self-efficacy to say, you know what, hey, I feel like if I can, because I got this support system, right, that's going to help me get there.
And she always tells me, like, if you need anything, if you have questions, if you are wondering about something, like, don't be shy or don't be afraid to reach out. Like, she always has answers for me. Yeah. And if we don't know, we always look to find answers.
And this is one of the goals for CPTP, is to have mentees come to someone that already has those resources for you. And I'm curious to know, how many times have you felt, I don't want to bother her, but you know what, I know she has the answer for me. How has your relationship gone from day one to today that gives you that assurance that there is someone there?
I think our relationship is good. And no, I haven't felt like...
Never felt like that. That's awesome. That's
like,
awesome.
I know I don't want to send her this email. Like, no, I haven't felt like that, because I know I know she might not be able to get to me, right away, because she's busy and everyone's busy, but she is going to get to me. And no, I don't feel like I can reach out right now.
And I'm curious to know, do you just stick to, I'm just going to give you some professional advice and that's it, or are you welcome to say, you know what, hey, maybe with school, maybe there's something else that I can help you with? Are you receptive to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Very.
Absolutely. One of the things we talk about it, and again, in terms of scheduling, like we meet every Wednesday, like clockwork, 4:30 every Wednesday. We're on Zoom, and she's very consistent in that. But even like when we meet, I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask you, what was your wellness check-in this week? Like, we do wellness check-ins.
Yeah.
Like, I know she loves to run. So now that I know that, when we get on the call, I'm like, okay, did you run this week? She's like, I ran for I took walks. I took kids to the park. I'm like, that's still wellness. Yeah. Don't that's still wellness. And I said, we laughed because I was like, oh, you get a week off for Thanksgiving week, and we get they get a Christmas break before winter session. And I was like, you're going to do a lot of running then. She's like, I'm really going to try. So we really check in on wellness.
Right.
But if anything came up, I'd be like, just call me.
Right.
It could be a class that you need some, you're writing an essay and you want to tip it. It could be anything. I'm going to lend myself. And we didn't know this. We recently found this out, but we were like, well, what do we do next semester? I mean, we asked each other, because we're both new to this.
You're already planning next semester.
We're like, what do we do next semester? And I think you asked, she's like, are you willing? Were you still available no matter what happens? Would you still be? I was like, absolutely.
Right.
Because we didn't know if we were going to.
We didn't know we would get matched up, and we keep going in this project. And I was like, absolutely. I will still mentor regardless. Like, beautifully enough, Lupe's hours are done. Like, she finished her 30 hours.
Wow, look at you. That's awesome.
Yeah, like a month ago.
Like a month ago, she finished her. So even though the hours are finished and that's the requirement for the program, we still
Right.
We still meet
Right.
faithfully. Like, we didn't let that go. We still meet, and we're going to meet this Wednesday. I was like, hey, we'll see each other Friday. Let's consider that a meeting.
Yeah.
But her hours were done, and some people might have that mentality of, I finished my hours. Okay, I'll see
I'm
you next
done.
semester.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But we were both willing, like, hey, let's just check
To continue.
in. I want to see how it's going. And we still do that.
Yes, and I asked that question intentionally just to get it out there that
Mhm.
CPTP is not just about mentorship of, oh, it has to be teacher related topics. It's about, like I said, a life coach.
Mhm.
You know, and
you build relationships.
you build that relationship because it's going to help you. Yes, you completed your obligation of this 30 hours, but hey, you know what? I'm still open to it. And again, I asked you intentionally because I know, just from hearing you speak, I know that you're that type of person that wants to help genuinely other
Mhm.
people. And like, again, I envy you to have such an amazing mentor as you go through your journey with teaching. In regards to teaching overall, and seeing your career unfold from going into asking a question to now being an advocate, what do you think would be a great advice, not just for your mentee Guadalupe, but for everyone else that wants to come into teaching? What's that one thing that you feel, get ready for this?
Well, there's twofold to this. I always tell people, know your why.
Mhm.
Never go into something if you don't know your why. For example, my 15-year-old loves basketball, advocate basketball player, but know your why. Like, don't just do something for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Don't just become a preschool teacher just because you love kids. Like, what is your why? So my biggest takeaway, no matter who you are, you want to get into this field, come in with confidence.
Confidence.
Come in
Love
with
that.
confidence, knowing that you're going to get the support.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. No, if you have a mentor or not, go to those department heads and be like, hey, I have some questions. What would this look like for me? Have your confidence to speak up and ask your questions.
So have a purpose.
Have a
and,
purpose,
and know,
yes.
know what your purpose is.
And
Yes.
don't lose your passion.
Don't,
Don't
goodness,
lose your
yes.
passion, yes.
I
Well,
feel like
you have a mentor that hasn't lost her passion and continues to
Yeah.
build her passion. I can assure you, you will not lose.
But I feel like as a newbie, first time teacher, I've had the parent view and being having the teacher view. I mean, I know it can become overwhelming, and
Oh yeah,
and you're not gonna have people like her everywhere you go.
Right.
They're willing to help you and they're willing to guide you. So the passion can be lost.
yes,
But I feel like if it's in you, like you won't lose your passion.
right.
Yeah.
And if I may share my 2 cents with this, networking.
Yes.
Networking, I think, among the many goals that CPTP has, is to help us build that network. Especially when you come into the classroom as a newbie,
Yeah.
as you're saying, it's important for you to have people to go to give you that, because yes, there's going to be times where it's very
Yeah.
challenging, where you're going to want to, you know what, I'm not sure I want to continue doing this. You're going to have those challenging behaviors. You're going to have those parents. You're going to have those administrators that just don't understand. But as long as you have that network, I think it's really going to help you to have that support system as you
Yeah.
continue to go. Coming in, what do you foresee as being one of the challenges as a new teacher?
I think the parents.
Not a parent like you, right?
I think the parents.
In what aspect?
I feel like if you're able to build a relationship with the children first, then the parents, you can build a relationship with them second. But in an aspect, because everyone parents differently, and everyone has a different view
Right.
on things, on a lot of things lately. So I feel like it would be challenging to address things with parents, or
Right.
how they come to you to address things. So yeah, I do feel like the parents.
But you're already ahead of the game, because especially what you said, building those relationships. As parents, we know our prized possession is our kids. And it doesn't matter what anybody tells us, our kids are always the best. If you have that relationship with your parents, with the students, then you're good.
Yeah.
You're already ahead of the game. I think through my experience, I see a lot of teachers into saying, well, I got to get through this. I got to get through curriculum. I have to do these assessments. But you're burning yourself out, and you're forgetting that your primary focus is the
For the
children.
kids, yeah.
The most important aspect of a classroom is a teacher. Because without that teacher, you can have a classroom full of kids, but then what?
Yeah.
If you don't have that teacher in the classroom, then it's going to be challenging. But if you have that teacher in there that comes in with that confidence because they have an awesome mentor, because they've established that network, now you have this abundance of wealth of knowledge to be able to be that effective in the classroom. I really admire this relationship that you guys have, not just the mentor-mentee relationship, but also, again, life coach. And it's one of the things that I admire you too, that you do and you provide for us. That's awesome. Continue doing what you're doing. I can see in Guadalupe the confidence that she's going. So before we go, I've asked her and I'm going to ask you, Guadalupe, what's that one thing that you want our audience to know about CPTP?
CPTP is a very good resource that will guide you and will help you find resources in other areas of teaching, not just be growing in a classroom, but growing in administration, growing in a parent-teacher perspective, or growing when you deal with other teachers. The CPTP program has helped me a lot, and it's a great resource to get around and to be known and to get a lot of your questions answered.
And you mentioned network. I kind of want to
Of course.
go back to that a little bit because you're speaking network too and building that network to help you grow in this area. Special thanks to Leah because
Oh, yes.
our network between me asking questions, we advocate like the things we don't know. I'm like, hold on, let me send Leah an email and she'll get back to us right away.
Yeah.
But I think that networking is critical. Like now I have a different relationship with Leah because now she's invited me to come to some meetings, to be an advocate, to be a voice because we were talking about partnerships. And I think about Children's Institute, just the field alone, like we're not getting teachers anymore. Like that 0 to 5 world, it's very challenging right now. So networking that I can be here as who I am as the mentor, but who I am working for Children's Institute and know that there are so many positions open there. Like, and I was like, Leah, how do I get the word out? Like, there's early childhood positions open.
Right.
And we want to build this community of how do we now tap into the community colleges
Right.
and say, how do we do panel discussions from agencies? I wanted to talk to her about that. Like, how do I get a few people from our agency to come to a panel discussion to the ECE department and have students come so they can hear about different, like we talked about, different avenues of being in the field. How do I go to that CPT program? Because if we don't build these networks and the relationships now with the community colleges,
Yes.
if we don't start now and saying, hey, this is an opportunity for you to come into this world that you love,
Right.
then we don't get the passionate, you use the word passionate, we don't get the passionate teachers that we're desiring.
Right.
So we got to build these networks. We got to become better partners with our community colleges so we can start there. Because even if they don't have degrees yet, when they have their AA degree, go ahead and apply.
Yeah.
Like, I know you've been on our panels, you know what we represent. Yeah, go ahead and apply to Children's Institute. I'll put a word in for you because I know that you've been a part of this journey. So we do. When we network, community colleges, we have to do a better job in partnering with Head Start agencies
Yes.
to build that because there's jobs out there waiting for them to come in.
And one of the things that it's so critical is advocacy. The network that you're building here with CPTP is going to continue to grow as you go in your profession. It's important for us to continue to advocate for our field. It's important for us to recruit not just teachers, but advocates of our field to have that good understanding of what early childhood education is. And we can have a whole long conversation about what early childhood education is in regards to developmentally appropriate practices, in regards to curriculum, social-emotional development, in regards to, like you said, you're building minds. These are the minds that eventually are going to be the leaders of our society. You know, we have children, and we know that our children are going to be part of society in the future. So what do we want society to look like? Do we want it to continue being the way it is, or do we want to build and change, inject change into their minds to saying, you know what, things need to change.
Absolutely.
And that's the way we do it, through advocacy, to continue networking with each other. Again, I admire you guys for having this awesome relationship. I admire you for everything that you've accomplished in your field. Continue being that advocate for our field.
Thank you.
As you come into our field, we're going to pass this on to you.
Yes.
You're going to take that baton, and then you're the one that's going to be sitting on these chairs leading people, because that's what we do, right? We build network with professionals that have already established to recruit the future.
Absolutely.
Right? You have that passion. You have awesome resource here. Let's keep that up. Last, final thought.
Oh, wow. I'm honored. My final thought is I'm honored to be a part of a program that represents getting teachers back into the communities that they want to teach in.
Yes.
Having our representation in our communities.
Awesome.
So I'm honored.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm also honored to have found this program that has opened many doors and has taught me all the different avenues that I can go with early childhood.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for your time. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. For those of you that want more information on CPTP, below in the description, we'll give you that information. We'll have some live links for you. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Capture the passion.